What's up, YouTube and Spotify and iHeart? How is everybody? It's Modern Relics Podcast. I'm Angel. He's Lucky. We're back in our usual office spaces, man. It's been a lot of traveling. It was great hanging out. We did a live thing on YouTube. Super fun. What's up, man? How's it been?
It's been good. It's been kind of a whirlwind since I got back. Obviously, it always is because I'm playing catch up, and we had so much fun while I was there. I kind of got behind on some of the things I was supposed to do here, like drawing wise and stuff. So I ended up getting a little stressed out over the week, but it was okay. And on top of that, I've added a new element to my schedule, which is not normal for me, but it's going to the gym. And so we're trying to squeeze in gym time, like after work or in the morning or in the mid-afternoon, wherever it kind of fits for both mine and Aaron's schedule. Oliver likes to come with us too. Kate is too busy to join us at this point, but as a family, it's something that we're trying to do together. And so it's been kind of also taking over some time.
Yeah.
But besides that, I'm sore, but I'm doing all right. Yeah. I'm achy. But as far as the week goes, it's been a pretty good week. A lot of ups, and I've been pretty happy. So how about you? What's been going on with you?
Yeah, I mean, it's as the crow flies. It's Tuesday when we record these, so it is funny being like, "How was your week?" when it's like a day and 3/4 old. But this week has been a year. It's just nuts, man. Life is pretty crazy over at Redacted at the moment, and there's a lot of shit flying around that no one really knows how to deal with or how to interpret. So that's been very interesting and challenging because. It's like what's that phrase where when the inmates run the asylum? It feels kind of like that, where everyone's just like, I don't know what to do. There's some big upheaval. There's also a lot of talks about, commercially speaking, tariffs, and there's a lot of back and forth on the art of what if, and what to do about this, that, and the other thing.
Is Redacted affected by tariffs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Redacted buys and deals with a lot of computer hardware and software. They deal with a lot of supply chain stuff, with their raw materials and things like that traverse, different country lines via seafaring utility boats and the like. So yeah, pretty much. So yeah, it's things to prepare for, but that's where you rely on, as best you can, contracts and relationships with other businesses that are also getting impacted by tariffs. I mean, it's an economical shift. That's kind of what it's designed to do.
Right.
So yeah, it's just been nuts. A lot of sleepless nights for me personally, because it's hard not to stress about the unknown with a lot of stuff, especially when you've got, where am I at? 13 years invested into this body of work. You know what I mean? So it's just crazy, but I'm doing okay. Otherwise, it is the weather is notably warming up. It's 76 degrees right now, which is amazing. But
done the opposite for us. We just finally started getting winter.
Yeah,
and so it's been snowing the last couple of days. It's supposed to snow the rest of the week, and it's dropped down into the 20s. So it's cold.
Yeah.
I think it was 18 today. And so, but yeah, I would imagine it's going to drop pretty low tonight.
Yeah.
So we shall see.
I anticipate it'll probably start to warm up until it gets windy in the spring, because it always does, and that's starting to pick up. But as long as it doesn't get to, over 110 degrees before the end of June, I'm good, because last year it came early and stayed late. So we'll see. Yeah. But yeah, other than that, that's it. And good quality segue. The first topic, tariffs. What are they? Why is this happening? Why is America evil for doing this? There's a ton of questions flying around about tariffs. And so I just thought maybe we could start tonight's show with a little, what is a tariff in simple words? It is a tax on goods coming from another country. That's it.
Absolutely.
They're typically structured as a percentage of the value of the import, and they can vary based on where the goods are coming from and what the products are, which means it is a targeted tax on the country it's coming from or the product. So, a lot of people are like, well, tariffs do nothing. They just hurt the buyer. That's us. It slows everything down. And for a short-term effect, probably yes, your Amazon order is going to get more expensive if the tariff is coming from China, or your food if it's coming from South America, like bananas and stuff like that, for example.
Avocados from Mexico,
or from California, which I think should be its own country. But at the end of it, why? And the why is, well, the tax generates revenue for the government, but it's not all bad in that certain companies in certain industries, such as the tech sector, for example, and a lot of manufacturing, which America has kind of wholesale shifted overseas for 40, 50 years, it goes away if you build, buy, grow, and produce in your own country. So you don't have to pay tariffs like that when you're exclusively reliant on imported goods from other countries that make the dollar from you. So the long-term benefit to a tariff would be the application of American innovation through industry, through technology. All of that has to happen here. So there needs to, in my opinion, be some form of fertile ground to welcome back the innovation in the industry in America to avoid tariffs like this. So it is bad up front in that it hurts the consumer, and it does. Things get more expensive, but the long-term effects are that you build a sustainable generational revenue growth right here.
You incentivize manufacturing and corporations and agriculture and everything else under the sun.
Right.
You incentivize them to do it in-house instead of paying other countries to do it for you at a cheaper cost. If you remove the tax incentive, or the barricades of taxing, and put it on other countries instead of us, it incentivizes them to do their manufacturing here within the borders of the United States. And yeah, there's going to be a short-term pinch for a long-term. In fact, that's how we used to do things in the country prior to, I think World War I, is that that's how we paid for our government, is that we literally used tariffs for other countries shipping things in here. It was just the norm. And we started to reverse that. And then what we started to do is tax our own people to pay the government rather than taxing outside of here. And to me, it only makes sense. I never knew any of that because I just lived under the yoke of taxation my whole adult life and did not know any different. So, and I think that's the Band-Aid that a lot of people don't realize that is being ripped off right now, is that there is, just a common sense or a common normal bias that's just how we do things, is we tax our people. And that's what pays for everything. And that's not really how it needs to go, nor did it go historically.
There was a big tea dumping festivities, like a party somewhere in Massachusetts a while back. Look
at the tariffs that were going on during that time frame too. We as a country, we're the only country on the planet that taxes its own citizens and sends that money outside of the country for foreign aid and other things. No other country does that. They also tariff the crap out of everything in their countries too.
And that's
sure we can all believe in the we can all believe in the utopian concept of free trade, but the reality is that once again, that is the libertarian view, where it is completely leans on the idea and is that every country has the same moral compass that we do, and that we're all going to abide by the same kind of generosity concept, and it just removes human nature out of it entirely. It's just never going to happen. And so we need to live within the real world of how this is going to be. And honestly, I'm okay with paying a little extra for a little while, as long as the tax burden on the American society gets relieved and we start bringing production to the United States rather than
elsewhere.
Outsourcing it to elsewhere, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Like I think there's two logical trade downs for, like, let's say tariffs are indefinite now. The logical trade downs would be, if this is an economics play, then the federal taxation on what we do presently needs to be lifted to compensate that, at least to a degree that offsets the factor so that you can still have GDP. If the answer is we're still going to get federally taxed and there are tariffs and those are also indefinite, then it ought to drive every single service that's under tariff to avoid that back home where there are no tariffs, and you can have your intra market and your economy will then be bolstered from the inside out rather than from the outside in. But time will tell, right? Because there is really no stopping these tariffs that are being imposed. But are we evil for doing it? Well, we illustrated, no, that's kind of how we started doing stuff before taxing our own people on one hand. On the other hand, why is every other country also tariffing American goods? So this is politics
For
through
some reason,
dollars, sort of.
We get to shoulder the only responsibility of evil, if you want to put it in that terminology, as a country. Every other country seems to be
totally okay with that.
Exempt from the concept of what they do to tax other countries as evil. Like, oh no, it's okay for them, but for us, we're supposed to be the ones that just keep taking it on the chin.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the tariffs not only are good long term, it may be expensive in the short term, but really how it's being used right now is as leverage points. And we haven't used leverage points in a very, very long time, and we're holding all the cards,
right?
And we don't leverage them at all. And it's showing when each and every single country in the last week that tariffs have been put up against has folded immediately. When they bolstered up and went, no, you're not going to get maple syrup or avocados, and then the next day they're like, never mind, okay, we'll agree to your terms. And then he puts a 30 or 60 day hold on the tariffs until he started seeing action upon those things. But I would imagine that there's going to be some long-term ones, that there's a shock and awe starting point, an ease back, and then a long-term permanence to it.
Save for the exemptions that will be written for, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, whatever they agree needs to take place for you to bring manufacturing back home, in order to, not get crushed immediately today if you ink into contract that you're going to start moving operations home and stuff. One question I had, and I truly don't know the answer to this, so it's going to sound like I'm taking an opinion on it, because I am, and I'll just do it uneducated if I have to. But if I'm wrong, I'd love to learn about it. But I have been looking around, and I have not once, and maybe you can correct me here, I've not once seen a UN country send financial aid to the United States after a natural disaster or a fire in Southern California or in Hawaii or anywhere else against the countries that have been tariffing us, NATO or non. I mean, we don't get their dollars. We just seem to tax our own people and send it out to Middle East and Ukraine and China and
weird
Taiwan.
How that works, huh? It's weird that this
could be wrong. Maybe they exist. I just don't see them reported on. So I'd love to know how that works out.
And the sign would be the blue helmets. We would have blue helmets everywhere, and we don't.
Yeah.
And you didn't see blue helmets in Hawaii. You didn't see them in LA. You didn't see them in North Carolina. You didn't see them at Katrina. You didn't see them anywhere. We have put
FEMA was there. I saw FEMA there because I went there, but no UN stuff.
No,
nothing outside the country.
And that's funny, because that's the point that was being made, that everyone was clutching their pearls about. He's like, Trump goes in there and goes, we give you the most money by far, like triple
I would almost
any
say
other country
exclusively.
goes. Right. And so, but what are we getting out of this? We don't get anything out of this. We're just basically the the piggy bank for the world, and we're done doing that.
Mm.
And everyone's clutching their pearls going, oh my God, how inhumane of him. And it's like, well, hold on, wait a minute, when did we ever see $1 of that? It's never come our way. The
Yeah.
UN ignores us. We're big boys, we can handle ourselves.
And I'll
And for the
retract the
most
word
part, they're right.
exclusively because Canada sent a shitload of money to Ukraine. I do know that. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
So,
I'll stand
but-
corrected there,
But honestly, I don't want their help either. The last thing I want is a bunch of blue helmets on our soil.
Right.
I don't want that. So like, I'm okay with not helping or giving them money and not receiving their help. I would just assume be completely removed from the United Nations, and I don't think I'm alone on that. I think a lot of people feel that way.
I don't think you're alone on that. I do think it would be kind of cool if other countries were dropping us bags of cash, though. Like places, that would be sick.
Yeah, hey.
For stuff that happens, you know, it gets hot down here.
Palestine, you know, the where the train derailed, and
Yeah.
where was that? Michigan or Ohio or something?
Was
East Palestine?
Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Pennsylvania,
See,
maybe?
it literally got lost in the news cycle.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that long ago. What was it, a year ago? You know, and
It feels like it was longer, but this has been a hell of a year. Like,
that's true.
oh, like I can't even
Yeah.
tell. It was like 2022 feels like I was 13 years old, you know, like
Yeah.
it's been like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, not that long ago.
We're living decades within a 365-day calendar year. So
Feels like it.
It's, yeah.
But no, I
But-
mean, just observations from a guy that's like, well, where's our bags of cash when we routinely go through toxic chemical bullshit, natural disaster here, there, and everywhere? Like, it does seem a bit lopsided that North America, and I'll include Canada in this, is just shoveling money for foreign aid and so forth that's coming out of its own constituents, and the tables are never reversed. So,
Right.
you know, lest we start throwing stones on this tariff shit, we're being tariffed routinely on American goods, and as a clapback at the last ones during the 2016 administration and these ones. So evil kind of doesn't come into play. It's economics, and it
Right.
sucks when you rely on stuff that's exclusively overseas goods. Stuff gets expensive, but
Yeah.
one would hope that our willingness to bring innovation back to the United States then also must carry with it new job openings, more innovative jobs to join in different sectors. That's like a net positive in the long run, right? Like,
Yeah.
economics
in my
is a
industry
powerful tool.
specifically, you know, we pride ourselves in kind of the traditional Americana of what the tattoo industry is. Like, the most tattooers are like, you know, buy American, build American, you know, all that. However, the vast majority of our supplies, including our needles, is all Chinese steel. All of it, you know, all of the manufacturing for all of our cartridges now are all Chinese. Everything about it is Chinese. Like, and there's been a lot of complaining going on, and that we can't find American-made needles. It's very, very rare. Probably most of the pigments we get are also going to be tariffed. You know, there's a lot of things that come out, you know, all of our plastic goods, all of our, you know, all of that should be made here.
I would challenge people that would like to scoff at this with grab a pen and a paper and just walk through your house, and everything your eye falls on, everything. Figure out how much of that is made in the United States, and then maybe the impact of what we're talking about will kind of sink in a little bit. Hell, dude, I drive a Chevrolet truck that was assembled in either Canada or Mexico, depending on where the digit is on the VIN. I can find that out, but not here. I have a Japanese car. I have an Italian bike. I have Chinese electronics everywhere I look in my office, including the lights I use. You know what I mean? The packaging, my clothes are probably made elsewhere, you know, Indonesia, Taiwan, like it doesn't
If
stop.
all of that was going on within the boundaries of our soil, if all of that manufacturing was going on, we wouldn't have a homeless crisis. We wouldn't have a jobless crisis. You know, like everyone would have work forever. But what we end up running into is EPA regulations that keep manufacturing from being inexpensive here. And that's where we end up falling short of being able to do it. Why they go other places, because they're regulated to hell here. And so they go other places, and then we've created this big mess where now we're in tariff wars because of the fact that we have certain industries, and I'm not going to call them anything other than industries, because the green concept is an industry. It is a money-making industry.
Yeah.
And so they've gotten a stranglehold on all regulatory bodies within our U.S. Federal government, and now make it nearly impossible for any of these things to be manufactured here, for a business to even go, is it even worth it? Like, I can't even pay people, with all of the regulations, all of the taxes, all of those things that happen. We need to free that up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's kind of phase 2 about what we're about to see. He's dangling, destroying, taking out the Department of Education over here while he's taking out the EPA over here. And like his scatter shot, full force, throw everything out all at once kind of methodology that he's using right now is genius, because they can't keep up with it. Mm-hmm. But at the moment right now, that's, I think, what's happening is he's got to clear the way of that regulation in order for that manufacturing. But before, he's got to put tariffs on everything. So it's going to be, there is a system, there is a plan, and he's executing it very well. And I am looking forward to it. Yeah, all my supplies for tattooing will probably go up for about a year, and then everything will probably start coming back down when we start seeing manufacturing.
And yeah, to your point about the Environmental Protection Agency and sort of the double speak, like, well, you're damned if you do, because we're going to get you for all the toxic chemicals your plant's going to produce, and you're damned if you don't, because you're going to force feed overseas stuff through tariffs. Like Elon had a really, really good example of this running SpaceX. On the one hand, he's bound legally by commitments to the United States government to keep a lot of stuff private, because he has defense contract stuff and he's building rockets and this and that and the other thing. And so as a result, he's not allowed to hire non-US citizens to work for his company because of the potential threat that would have to the relationship he's built under contract with the US government. And then he gets crucified for not hiring like Americans, immigrants and non-American aliens and stuff like that. And he's like, you go to court and you're like, but I will lose all of my contracts and break all of the covenants that I made with the US government if I do that. It says right here, I know the rules, you gave them to me, I read them and signed them. But over here, I'm getting penalized and sued for not accommodating this hiring initiative for the exact opposite reason. Like, I just have to pay you money. That's the answer here. And yeah, so I think tearing down some of these obnoxious governance structures so that we can allow industry to thrive. Industry itself will bring about the innovation to drive alternative fuels and stuff to the automotive industry.
I think that was his motivation for creating Doge.
Yeah,
I think that was his motivation exactly for that.
It's like, this is dumb.
Oh, I've been in the middle of this too many times.
Yeah.
And it's all because of bloated bureaucracy that is in contradiction with each other and the law. Mm-hmm. And I've been in courtrooms in the middle of contradicting law and policy. I've got to strip all of this away. This is insane. And he's been given the opportunity to do it. And so I'm looking for, it's only been 10 days?
Yeah.
And they're 15 days. And they're getting work done. Like, it's incredible.
Oh, well, I'm glad to see it. That's what I was worried about, was like, how much can they actually do before it gets tied up in litigation and stuff. So I think the shotgun everything approach is really working to their favor, because to your point, nobody can keep up with it.
Yeah.
So
and I think they learned their lesson from the opposition. The opposition is known for doing that. What they do is they just throw so many things out there that there isn't enough staff to handle. There isn't enough lawyers to handle it. There
Yeah,
isn't enough.
try
you
reading the
know,
Green New Deal in an hour and a half before it has to be voted on.
Right. That kind of warfare tactic is what they're using right now. They're
Right.
like, "Oh yeah, well while you're busy over here, it's the age-old tactic. If you want to rob a bank, light the biggest fire you can across town
Mm-hmm.
so that all of the resources go over there and no one's watching the bank."
Right.
And that's basically the strategy of what he's doing right now. But what he's done is he's lit 6 fires,
Yeah.
7 fires, and he's like, I'm going to make sure we can get work done while all this is going on. Now, in a microcosm, Idaho, like I've been saying this for years, Idaho is one of the most mineral rich states. It's the gem state. We have more minerals, more timber, more gems. Like we should have a thriving timber industry. I mean, your dad used to work at the mill.
He did.
All those mills got shut down. All the mines got shut down because of federal EPA nonsense. And one of the things I think once we get more land independence and we get a lot more of the lands that the federal government has taken from the states, including Idaho, in an enormous amount, once we get that back, we can open that up and go, okay, we should be the
leading purveyor of minerals.
Well, yeah, like what's I'm blanking on the name.
Lithium?
The Tech Valley in
Silicon.
California, Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
We should be the Silicon Valley of raw materials in the United States. We should be the mecca for raw materials, and we absolutely could fund our state 100 times over and create so many jobs that are sustainable jobs where it's a one income house, where we can actually build families off of all of that based off of what we have naturally here that we're not allowed to touch because of EPA regulations that are, for the most part, absolute BS. And so, and we have enough technology now. I mean, all this stuff got shut down in the 80s. We know how to do it safe now. And
well, absolutely. Like banging on the fossil fuel drum, like the 2 cleanest producers and executors of fossil fuels today in order of best to worst, the top 2 is Canada and the United States. Like, so when you drive the innovation forward where alternative energy sources will naturally just get invented and come of age, I'm fine with alternative energy as long as it's not shoved down my throat as the only alternative when it's at the expense of, in our present day scenario, the electrical grid, which is already behind the times and suffering. It's being bolstered by, again, overseas chipsets and components. So yes, everything you just said is spot on.
Yeah. And that's what we need to do. We need to be able to do that, but on a grander scale within the entirety of the United States. And what that means, in order for that to happen, we need to start off with tariffs. We need to then at that point make it more comfortable, easier, and efficient to do business and industry within the border of the United States. Period. That is flourishment in a nutshell for the United States. And I think that's the ultimate plan. I think that's the plan for a lot of people within my state, and I'm hoping that that's what's going on a national level. So as far as tariffs go, I think it's phase 1 of what potentially could be the best way forward that I've seen in my lifetime, and probably since before my mom was born. Like this. So, like, I think that, I'm all for it. I don't see it as a moral issue. In fact, I see it as a moral good.
Long term, I agree. Short term, I recognize there will be ouchies and pain and suffering. I saw this when I bought my house and lumber prices were up and needed to fix stuff and things like that. So that's what a tariff is. That's how it's being leveraged. That's kind of where we sit on it. Long term good, short term a little bit painful. But moving into some fun stuff. How about a Second Amendment summer tax holiday? What do you know about those?
Man, I saw this come by.
Do you think people in Washington State are screaming right now?
Oh, dude, my wife sent this to me with giggles. We were
Yeah.
at the gym and she's like, and I was like, what are you laughing at? She goes, dude, let me send this to you. Send it to me. And our boy DeSantis, man, he just keeps throwing out cookers.
Yeah.
Just cookers. The guy is just hot hit after hot hit after hot hit.
Let him cook. Yeah.
And today he had a press conference where he basically created a new Floridian holiday.
He sure did.
That spans between Memorial Day, I think. Is that what he said?
And the 4th of July.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Through 4th of July.
Yep.
Right? Where anything, he's calling it like what did he call it? The Second Amendment.
It is called the Second Amendment summer tax holiday.
I love this man. I love him.
Yeah.
I love this dude. I don't care if he wears heels. I love this man. He literally says that in the state of Florida,
Yeah.
God bless Florida, that anything, whether it be firearms, ammunition, or attachments and accoutrements, all of it, every bit of it will be tax-free.
Yeah. How about it?
Completely tax-free between Memorial Day and 4th of July.
You know what industry is not going to get punished by tariffs real hard?
The firearms industry,
The firearms
ammunition,
industry.
you're gonna be fine.
Look,
Yeah.
you're going to have some import stuff on your Gaston Glock products, your Springfield that are designed by whatever they are, HS product and stuff overseas in the Czech Republic.
Any AK ammo,
Yeah.
stuff like that from Russia, but
Not- Not anybody else stateside though. Not Winchester, not Ruger, not So that's an industry that is actually going to be a booming down south.
yeah.
So
Where do they source like a lot of their their copper and their lead and all of their gunpowder and stuff like that? Is that all
from
U.S. sourced?
No, I anticipate that it is not. It's manufactured here, right? Like all the,
Right,
the
yeah.
reserve, like ammunition plants and things like that. Winchester's a humongous provider of ammunition and things like that. And I know there are contracts for stocks of certain types of powder loads and ballistics that go to the U.S. reserves, but no, I assume the raw materials are likely imported. So
Yeah. So
Yeah,
they'll
at
get
least
hit
in
a
part.
little bit, but not a lot.
yeah, but
So
not the U.S. manufacturers of firearms and accessories. Holy crap!
No.
If you're looking for
Yeah.
a holster and a whole bunch of supplies, it may be worth a quick flight to Florida to pick those things up before you go home.
go do a summer vacation down there. Go spend 4th of July in Florida and come back.
Rough time to be down in Florida, but I'll tell you what, if you're enjoying the summer tax holiday on Second Amendment products, DeSantis is your man. He's doling it out with cups of Florida orange juice, I'm told. So
Is he just trying to be the guy keeps doing this, and we're all kind of gaga and doe-eyed looking at JD Vance for maybe the next term, because he's been killing it too. There's no doubt about it. That guy, you can't put that guy in front of a camera without him throwing out bangers.
yeah.
But I think DeSantis is going, hey, remember me? And he keeps doing it. And there's nothing. That
This
guy.
is the bench I wanted them to start to showcase, though.
Yeah, when it's hard to pick who you want next for the next president,
Yeah.
because there's too many good ones, rather than who do we got? Who's the least shitty? And that's it's much better that we're in a position that we're there's a few of them that I'm okay with. So
yeah, I'll have to fall back to some of my early due diligence on some of the candidates this go round. Vivek and I are aligned right up until he starts wanting to change the Constitution, different stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's a very based move, and I think he knows it, and I think it's resume building to a certain degree, but it's also net positive for lawful gun owners in the state of Florida.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun times. Had to bring it up. Now, onto some kind of weird and gross stuff, man.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the Grammys. The last time I checked into the Grammys was I've never watched the Grammys. But
Agreed.
one of the news stories
Makes two of us.
that's popped out of this was Kanye West's wife, Bianca Censori, showing up with a small dress on that was completely see-through, like just a sheen piece of fabric that revealed literally all of her body parts with zero censorship whatsoever. So she was basically naked.
Yeah. It was like
and
she was wearing a condom.
yeah, like
Like a complete like visqueen. Like she was wrapped in one layer of
right,
like
like
Reynolds wrap.
almost like
but there was
saran wrap. Yeah.
yeah.
The thing that kills me is what I later read about this was, there's people that are calling for you should be arrested for indecent exposure at the very least. I kind of agree. Like there were kids around and
If
cameras
a dude
and stuff.
had done that, it would have been an arrest immediately. If it was a guy.
What got them officially kicked out of the Grammys was the fact that CBS was airing it and they caught wind of this. And so the event organizers were like, dude, our advertising revenue is going to go down when people get pissed off that we're showing a naked body on syndicated national television. Like, you need to leave right now. Not moral stuff, not what the hell are you doing? Why would you drag your wife? Like
literal
dude,
kids in the video that were walking by, stuff like that. Like,
none of
not
that.
that.
None of that.
No.
So yeah.
What kills me is that my history with Kanye is that I don't have any.
Sure.
I've never thought that he was the genius that other people thought he was.
College Dropout was cool, but it wasn't like life-changing for me. So
no, I think that a little weirdness goes a long way for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think that he leaned into that weirdness a little bit. Genius is never the word I would have used for him.
Right.
But a lot of people did. And he made a lot of money. Now, do I think that was all legitimate? I don't know. I don't care. He was never really on my radar until he started running for president. And I thought, why the hell is this idiot running for president?
Right.
Like, I'd hear him on a microphone and go, this man has no business being anywhere near leadership roles of any kind. He doesn't know what he's talking about anything. Like, he barely knows what he's talking about with music, let alone how to functionally run a country. And then what's really, really weird is that during the Groyper War stuff that was going on and all the white, ethno-statists who attached themselves to him. And when he was running, they were like, we're voting for Kanye. And it was only due to the fact that he was being very vocally anti-Jewish. And I don't mean anti-Semitic, I mean anti-Jewish. And so, he was going real hard in those weeds because a little gremlin by the name of Nick Fuentes got his meat hooks in him. And then you had Milo and a couple of other people who were steering him. And they were using him as a puppet, much like they're using Candace Owens right now as a puppet. They know that they can't get away with saying certain things on the internet, but this black guy can. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to dance behind him and go, look at our black guy. He's saying all the stuff about the Jews that we don't get to say. And it was so blatantly obvious to anybody who was in the realm of like I've been, who've been like digging deep on this stuff and finding out what their actual, background and beliefs and all those things are. And going, why would they attack? They hate him. They talk crap about him online behind his back, like he's our monkey, ha 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 ha. And we're like, dude, what do you? And then publicly saying we're going to vote for him.
Wildly
Everyone
racist.
should vote for him.
Right,
exactly. And so, so for him to be in that realm where he's on Alex Jones saying that he loves Hitler, Kanye West saying I love Hitler. He's obviously doesn't know what he's doing. He's obviously not in his right mind. So then at that point, and then they're like, oh, you're going to question his sanity? Hell yeah, I am. Like this, cannot
follow the breadcrumbs. Like even in interviews, the guy can barely keep a straight thought before it morphs into something else that's only connected in the strings of Kanye's own imagination. Like,
exactly. And so then he dips out of that because he gets in a whole heap of like controversy, and obviously isn't going to win a presidency, so that he backs out of that and kind of disappears for a while. And then he comes back and he goes, I'm getting baptized. I'm only doing gospel music. I'm only doing music that glorifies God. I'm only going to live my life for Christ. All of these things that he has had this big turnaround, right?
And then Naked Wife at
and then
Grammys.
within a year, he's parading his wife while he's standing there next to her, fully nude.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. It's absolutely a foul move by a foul man who has proven over and over again that he's a lunatic. And now I want to know what all the groypers think. Are all the groypers and all the guys who are backing him now as their moral guy, as the guy who's there for Christ, is now sitting there throwing the thing that you guys talk the most about, the immoral aspects of now he's doing this. Whoa, okay. Now, but he's a lunatic, and it was really gross. It was really a filthy move, and a lot of people are saying that she wasn't that he was forcing her to do that, but even if it was consensual, I don't care. It was still a disgusting
You need to have
move.
some modicum of self-respect. And while outwardly most of the press are saying more or less the extent of like he's suffering from early onset irrelevance or whatever, and this is just him trying to get back in the headlines, I think if you unpack all the stuff that you just said and really follow the history of this guy, I think there's a lot more mental problems at stake than just that. So
yeah,
gross nonetheless.
it was gross.
Yep.
And also the only kind of takeaway from the Grammys, honestly, like I have no idea what happened to the Grammys outside of that.
No idea.
So maybe he did his job. Maybe he's like, tell you what, we need to get back, and this is how we do it. Wear this, gross. Just bad people doing bad things. I don't know. I've never been a fan, but
I'm just not a fan of the institution. I think it's the record label's chance to celebrate themselves. Just the way I feel about the Academy of Arts and Sciences for films. Because if you unpack the rule book on how to qualify for an Academy Award, you have to have a certain percentage of your staff that's a DEI hire, that's on paper. You have to have a certain amount of representation. It has to have this. It's got to be within that. It's really kind of like, that's why some of the movies that are up for winning in flies in the face of like actual really good films that have come out this year and years before it. So I just lost interest in the establishment. I like music, entirely. I like film, but I don't give a shit about the award stuff. I just could care
Not
less. I mean,
and we're actually not alone. Their ratings have been plummeting year over year to the point where most podcasts get more viewership in one day than they do anymore. Like it's insane how little people actually care about these award ceremonies outside of their own bubbles.
Yeah.
And so, but they exist, and but you're right. You and I love music, and we love film, and we love the industry that brings us the imagination of those two worlds. But the accolades or the pat on the backs or the symbolic ceremonial
self-aggrandizement, even the salacious outputs like this, it's a fucking zoo. It's a zoo to me. I'm like, ugh.
Yep.
Don't leave the house stark naked. You probably will get arrested for indecent exposure.
You should get arrested, not will. You should get arrested.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
Unless you're on Capitol Hill during June, then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. And maybe even parts of Florida, even during Second Amendment summer tax holiday. Just be careful. Be careful out there is what I'm trying to tell you. So talk to me. What's that?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, talk to me about your life at the gym, because you have an opportunity to watch all these different news networks now, right? On the treadmill or on the machine. Like,
I didn't realize that this was a thing.
oh yeah,
But-
how different is your worldview in 10-minute increments in bites?
So we go to Planet Fitness because we're poor,
Sure,
and that's where the poors go.
the no
to
judgment
work out.
zone.
Yeah, the no judgment zone, the big purple beast.
Yeah.
And it literally all of the, and probably they're all designed the same way, but all of the treadmills and stuff are all kind of lined up to this giant bank of TVs, and you can plug in to go to whatever channel you want. They're numbered and everything. But I can stand there and see 3 news channels, and I'm not a fan of any one of them. But I can see Fox,
Yep.
MSNBC, and CNN all at the same time, and they're all reporting on the same thing. All of them are doing exactly like they're Trump sitting at a desk, or the press secretary or whatever, and they're all reporting almost simultaneously of the same story, but the headlines are so dramatically different as to it's 2 different realities. And by 2 I mean that CNN and MSNBC tend to be almost identical in how they present with even the headlines. Like, they are trying to say that like the tariffs backfired, and that's how they're presenting it. And then over on the Fox channel over here, and it's every story's like this. It's like, Mexico and Canada back down, and now we're putting it off, for 60 days until we can figure out how this is going to work from this point on. Like, they're 2 absolutely different parallel universes that is never more like, I don't understand how anybody who goes into those gyms can't see that, see, like, they either just focus on their MSNBC or they just focus on their Fox. And it blows my mind how they can get away with that.
Meanwhile, you're just focused on gains. Oh,
I'm just focused. Not yet. I'm focused on not breaking certain body parts. Is where that's the level we're at right now.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah. So
it's wild, isn't it? Like, we've talked about this quite a bit, in that the talking heads are obviously narrative driven, and you can really crunch down the conspiracy theory, tinfoil, get it nice and tight, and you can talk about, well, it's interesting that the sponsors are all, brought to you by Pfizer, brought to you by Johnson & Johnson, brought to you by, and you can see sort of the narratives that are being pushed. But realistically, it is the editing section of these news channels crafting narratives for the people. So yeah, it is very fun to see that in real time. I did that a lot through the pandemic because I got tired of it. I would get, I think it was like Sky News Network or something like that from BBC feed.
Australia, or
Australia, then a BBC feed, and then I had Fox, and then I had I think it was ABC or NBC a lot, covering the same stuff, where I was just like, holy shit. Like, they're not even telling the same story. The news you get is wherever you decided to land on the television station that day. And I'm talking they are that night and day different.
Yeah. And it is not the same. Like, he's literally sitting at a desk saying, like, and they're asking him questions, and the way that it's being presented and framed from this television to that television.
Oh, even the breakouts from the actual quotes are crafted so perfectly to make it sound like someone's either has more context or is a complete asshole, and it was one person saying one thing from the same video. It's like, God. Yeah.
But that's actually been what's entertaining me while I'm on those treadmills, is like, I've been just kind of like giggling, looking back and forth, just going, they're saying exactly the opposite of what this one is saying right now. And yeah, it's I knew that it existed, but have it be so forward facing, side by side, in multiples of 4 or 5 as it stretches all the way across the entirety of the gym, and having all of these strangers around me that I'm like, are you seeing this too? Like, am I the only one seeing this? How are you not like mad at these screens right now? How are you not mad that somebody's lying to you because they're saying this and this somebody's saying this. So which one's lying to you?
Right.
You know, and it's incredible how much tunnel vision people walk through life with.
Yeah.
And that's been the takeaway that I've had from the gym, outside of, you know, sore knees. But it is ridiculous. It's been really eye-opening over the course of the last time I went to the gym was with John Young, like, 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a while ago.
This world did not exist. We weren't paying attention to the TVs in front of us. We weren't paying attention to the news. We weren't caring. It didn't matter. Now that's all that matters, and that's all that I pay attention to, this is a new reflection of the society that I knew existed, but man, on full display is pretty disturbing. And so it's been an interesting walk through this new phase of, because I can stay in my tattoo shop, I can stay in my home, and I can scroll the internet and understand generally how the population is working, right?
Yeah.
But when you go inject yourself into their world and go in there and go, okay, I'm a cog amongst all these people, and I don't get to choose what goes on around me. I'm a participant. And you're looking at other participants, and they just are blind and walking around hopeless and blind, and it's unbelievable. So yeah, that's just been my takeaway.
Yeah,
so
it's fun to see it in real time.
Yeah,
I wanted to follow up with the podcast. We covered some Title IX stuff on the order of maybe 5 months ago or so. What's up, the prunes? I wanted to come back with you guys. January 31 of this year, we have a little bit of a reversal, and I'm going to read this to you. This comes directly from the Acting Assistant Secretary, U.S. Department of Education, Office for Civil Rights. This is the Title IX follow-up. So this letter is to clarify that effective immediately, the United States Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights will enforce Title IX under the provisions of the 2020 Title IX rule, rather than the recently invalidated 2024 Title IX rule. Accordingly, the lawful Title IX enforcement includes, inter alia, the definition of sexual harassment, the procedural protections owed to complainants and respondents, the provision of supportive measures to complainants, school-level reporting processes, and the interpretation of sex to mean the objective immutable characteristic of being born male or female as outlined in the 2020 Title IX rule. January 9, 2025, the U.S. District Court of the Eastern District of Kentucky issued a decision vacating the 2024 Title IX rule, which prohibited ED from enforcing it in any jurisdiction. Prior to that decision, federal courts in other jurisdictions enjoined the 2024 Title IX rule, which amounted to a prohibition against its enforcement in 26 states. Indeed, every court presented with a challenge to the 2024 Title IX rule has indicated that it is unlawful. In OCR's view, the Eastern District of Kentucky's decision expressed the proper textual and original meaning of the Title IX, and it correctly repudiated the 2024 Title IX rule's expanded meaning of the on basis of sex to include gender identity, which, if left in place, would turn Title IX on its head. Likewise, the court rejected the 2024 Title IX rule statement that discrimination on the basis of sex also includes discrimination on the basis of sex stereotypes, sex characteristics, and sexual orientation. Equally fatal to the 2024 Title IX rule, on January 20th, 2025, President Trump issued an executive order defending women from gender ideology extremism and restoring biological truth to the federal government. That directly contradicts the vacated rule's novel and expansive meaning of on the basis of sex. President Trump ordered all agencies and departments within the executive branch to enforce all sex protective laws to promote the reality that there are two sexes, male and female, and that these sexes are not changeable and are grounded in fundamental and incontrovertible reality. As a constitutional matter, the president's interpretation of the law governs because he alone controls and supervises subordinate officers who exercise discretionary power on his behalf. That unified control extends to ED and OCR. Therefore, Title IX must be enforced consistent with President Trump's order from 2020. In light of the federal court decisions and President Trump's Defending Women executive order, the binding regulatory framework for Title IX enforcement includes the principles and provisions, all included, of the 2020 Title IX rule and the longstanding 9 regulations outlined in 34 CFR 106, but excludes the vacated 2024 Title IX rule. Accordingly, open Title IX investigations initiated under the 2024 Title IX rule will be immediately reoriented to export fully with the requirements of 2020 Title IX rule. Resources pertaining to Title IX and 2020 Title IX rule are available here. Sincerely, Greg Traynor, Acting Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, United States Department of Education. So no more witch hunts. Sorry. You can't not face your accuser. You can't say that you're being discriminated against as a result of being investigated for sexual assault. And you can't fucking hide under a specific meaning that you choose, by the way. That's what that means. And that's why I wanted to follow up with it. Because I was like, this is a nightmare for the American education system.
100%.
Particularly in colleges.
It's going all the way down into the high school level. I mean,
Yes.
Probably even junior high level, but like it is insane what a mess that caused, because it was so incredibly untangleable.
It gave
like, it
carte
was just
blanche access for the victim to essentially have no rights or have any way to pursue their victimizer, because the victimizer can in turn say this is discrimination based on my identity of gender or my ideology around sex or the meaning of it or whatever the case may be. And there were to be a Title IX tribunal officer. Remember all that was to be assigned to each. All that is no more, dude. You can't hide under these things and get away with sexual assault. Period. So that was massive. And I was like, oh, I have to follow this up, because we spent quite a bit of time me going, like banging the bells, like, you guys, this is fucking terrifying. And so that was just repealed, I guess, January 31. It got to me today. But yeah, that's big.
And that's what I'm talking about. Like, there's so much going on that's something as big as this is flying under the radar, and they're not even, no one can even like keep up with the amount of things that are, that are happening. And this is huge. This is something that should have been front page news. This is something that should have riled up all of the news networks and the leftist masses. This is something that should have created protests in certain areas right now, but because of everything else that is going on because of this administration, it just flew right under the radar. You picked it up because you happened to see something, and I hadn't even heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. I'm not even sure if Aaron did.
This was the death sentence if you were to send your child to college and there was some form of bullying or sexual assault or whatever the case may be. There would be near nothing that you could do in defense of your child to face the accuser if any one of the 2024 Title IX provisions were deployed by the assailant. Yeah. And it would be handled by an independent tribunal by the Secretary of Education's new jurisdictional hires that were these planted folks that were supposed to be in defense of the new definition of Title IX. So it was a witch hunt.
If they came to you and said, hey, you're being accused of sexual assault, and the assaulter was like, well, here's my pronouns, and top of that, I identify as a non-binary, trans, da 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 da.
And your accusal is violating my right to be that person in and of itself, which is often how those get dismissed completely from further investigation. You would have to criminally file within the state to figure that out, and you would get zero help from the Department of Education on what is or is not acceptable by Title IX provisions on campus.
And that is gone. That got nuked.
Yep.
That is exactly where it needs to be, at the bottom of a pile of rubble.
Yeah, like it's hard for us to follow up on big stories unless I'm able to catch the RSS feeds for the output or the throughput, because so much shit is exploding left and right and night and day and stuff. But that was one that was pretty big because I was banging the drum pretty hard on that a few months ago, and I was like, this is
And I'm glad you
dangerous.
did.
You know what I mean? So
I'm wondering if Erin might not be in the feed tonight because she's got a couple of other, like, she's got a
we
city
got the
council meeting
prunes
and
though.
a-
That's good news.
I know. I saw that, and that's great. How's Canada right now, Prunes?
How is Canada right
Things-
now?
Yeah. How you guys feeling up there right now? We talked about you earlier. You'll have to rewind.
Yeah.
Not you in particular, but just you and Canadian
You
generality.
as the representative of all things Canada.
Yeah.
That's what this show
So-
comes here for, is our reporter in the field.
And tariffs, stuff
And
like
tariffs.
that. But like, how are you guys doing up there, Prunes? What do you got next on the docket?
Last
'Cause
one
that's
was
great
Trump
news.
taking
That's
shots
great
at
news.
Yeah, it was Trump taking shots at Canada again on Twitter for being the 51st state, and how cool it would be to live tariff free if you guys just join the team, which
Yeah.
is I think comical to a wild degree, and is not even news, but it happened again. I think it's hilarious. Like I surmise if leadership in Canada went, you know what, that Trump's got a damn good point, maybe we should go join America, he probably would entertain it. But this is meant to provoke, if I'm reading through the tea leaves correctly. So I don't think there's a snowball's chance in February that Canada turns tail and starts the Stars and Stripes overhead, but would be fun because we could hang out with the Prunes without a passport if needs be.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it, really. We're going to talk about a movie we both saw, and then you have some personal
Actually-
news as well. So about the Seattle shop.
Yeah. Why don't we hit that before the movie? So, because
Real quick from chat. Sorry, guys. Doing okay with being 51. I love to hear it. We pledged to take our border seriously, and Orange One decided to delay for 30 days.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
So, but better watch it. Better mind your P's and Q's for 30 days up there in the Great White North.
That's true.
Yeah. We booed I saw that. They booed all the NBA and NHL teams the other day.
Yeah. You're so nice about it, though, too. Like,
And one of these days you guys will take the Stanley
Meh.
Cup back, but
you know, I thought the first attack in response to that from Canada against the United States was the fact that it snowed in Florida last week. It's like, oh shit.
yeah.
Canada sent some snowfall. It's on. It's happening.
The Florida Panthers are the ones who actually currently hold the Stanley Cup, and they actually very happily went to the White House and celebrated with Trump and brought
Yeah.
the Stanley Cup with them and stuff. That was fun.
Well, they're getting tax-free
think
gun
actually-
stuff, so they're probably loving life right now.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the personal news that I had. So back in 2010, I opened up my first business, my first shop in Seattle, and I opened it up with $2,000 borrowed from a friend in the back of a hair salon in a room half the size of the one I'm sitting in right now. And it was $900 a month. And I scrambled for the first 3, 4, 5 months of trying to get this thing off the ground, panicking, scraping change to buy diapers for my son, and calling my mom every other day going, I don't think I made the right decision. And I went full guerrilla mode and just started doing everything I could. I was paying, like during Pride Month, week out on the hill, I would pay like strippers a free tattoo to go down and pass out flyers for me. I went to every bookstore, every coffee shop, every bar, and put up flyers everywhere I could. If I wasn't tattooing, I was guerrilla marketing. And then it finally kicked off and it started paying off. It started coming in. And in the meantime, I'm so busy. I'm wearing a Bluetooth in my ear just to, while I'm tattooing. And I got so busy that I was like, I have to do something about this, and ended up building the shop. And I got a loan from a friend because banks wouldn't look at me. I got a $20,000 loan from a friend, and family members laughed at me. So it wasn't looking good. And then a girl who had gotten an inheritance from her father passing away gave me $20,000, and I tried not to take it, but she insisted. And so, and then I found a building and I started building this business, and I built the Artful Dodger Tattoo, and it was a comic book shop, toy shop, and tattoo shop all in one. And I built it from the ground up, and I put every bit of heart and soul into this thing. You were there for all of it.
Every step.
And yeah, and I was there 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. You know, my wife and kids would have to come up. I built a room in the back just so they could see me. I was hiring people who barely knew how to tattoo and polishing off their abilities and going, okay, now you're a tattoo artist, just so I could keep the flow going. And went through a business partner who that didn't work, and that went out the window. And just ups and downs, and I built and built and built until we're winning the best tattoo shop in Seattle for King 5 News every year. You know, we're doing all of these cool, amazing things with hold on, my camera decided to unfocus here.
It'll probably snap back.
Okay. But yeah, all of these things that that happened, you know, started doing like Emerald City Comic Con and all of these other types of conventions, you know, HorrorCon, Crypticon.
There was a con or 6 every year for probably the first 8 years at least before you started doing regular tattoo circuits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I mean, it was bananas. You're doing that? Oh, fuck yeah. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I kept building and getting more artists. And by the time I was done with, you know, we were 5,000 square feet, full arcade, 15 arcades. It was like Narnia down there.
Yep.
And I had built this reputation and built such a solid reputation in the community. And then we had to move buildings in 2016. They sold the building to Chinese investors, which was the beginning of a lot of that Chinese property buyout throughout the country. And we ended up moving 5 blocks away. It cost me like $27,000. Postponed my move to South Carolina for 2 years because of it.
Well, and just to paint some perspective, what was your commercial rent per month on that last building?
The one that we moved out of, or the one that we moved to?
The one you moved to on the hill where the hair salon was next to it. On Pike.
That one was, I think that was like $8,700 a month, I think, somewhere in that realm.
$8,700 a month to keep that thing going. And then what was the rent on the last building, the one you moved into?
$10K.
10,000.
10 a month, and that's just rent.
So just to paint that into perspective for some listeners, that's how much money you had to make just to keep access to the building, just to keep the key unlocking the door.
Yeah. Had nothing to do with all of the supplies, the insurance, the internet, all of the other things that come along with running a business, right? Keeping the lights on, all of the other things that came along with it. You add another 4,000 to 5,000 onto that. So, you know, you're looking at monthly expenditures for a tattoo shop at somewhere in the realm of $13,500 to $15,000 a month, somewhere in there, depending on the month. So yeah, there was a lot of moving parts, and it was a lot. And then I, you know, had opened up a second location in 2016 here in Coeur d'Alene, and I built this kind of I don't even know. It was a beautiful thing that was recognized all over the country. Like I went to Florida for a educational, and the lady who was teaching marketing actually pointed me out and said at the back of the room, I'd never met this woman before, and half the people, there was like 60 people in the room, and I knew probably 8 of them, and she goes, "You're lucky, right? You own Artful Dodger Tattoo?" I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "Everyone look at his marketing. this guy knows what he's doing, and he knows his branding, he knows his marketing, and it was like, whoa, these people know down here. This lady knows who I am, so it had reached beyond what I even had ever anticipated for it, and there was so much that I had built into this, and although I was losing my love of the city of Seattle, it doesn't mean that the creature that I had created and built and cultivated and cultivated many careers, like 8 different people came out of that shop just because I taught them how. You know, half the people that worked there even after I left was still people that I taught how to tattoo. There was a legacy there. I had created a legacy within Seattle that was a staple to the community. It was a staple to the city. People knew about the shop when they came to Seattle, and we were on the top of almost every list, and it was something that I put so much work into, and I had a good team. I built a good team. I created a good team.
Just perspective from the guy that's been next to it the entire time. There were 7 or 8 rotations or ideations of that team before it became a good team. Like, this was not an overnight, like, you got to deal with upstarts, prima donnas, people that can't control addiction sometimes, people that can't control their opinion sometimes, folks that don't know how to drum business, people that were leeching. Like, you went through a wild gambit before it even came to that. So, like, this is an
before
overview,
I felt
but
comfortable
still.
leaving it with a manager and just the team, and being able to walk away and go to the other shop, you know, because for 4 years I was going back and forth between the 2 shops. And so, like, week to week for most of it, and then I started going only 1 week out of the month there, and then doing 3 weeks at home. And when I would show up, I didn't have to worry that it was not being run properly. I had a great manager. His name was Eric, and but then COVID hit, and then the riots and the Chop Chaz situation, things that we've already discussed and explored thoroughly on this show. And it did what it did. It put me on the other side of that paradigm shift, the other side of the, you know, the Overton window that that created an enemy out of me. So I was like, it's better that I just stay away, because my presence, being unvaccinated, refusal to wear a mask, in that city, in that shop, where they're all, and not agreeing with the riots, not agreeing with any of that stuff.
You particularly as a representative of the business, but anyone around you that was an old head, could you imagine just the association of that place? Could you imagine if any of us opened our mouths during that time?
Right,
like
exactly.
In a lot of ways, it was to shut up and protect the people that were there, because it was a wild time.
My presence there would have been more detrimental. First of all, if I had shown up there, I would have probably gotten in a fist fight with one of my employees, just because they brought it up and brought it to me. And then there would have been either a mutiny, or there would have been a protest outside just for my being there. And I recognize that they didn't. They saw it as me abandoning them, even though I was in constant contact from my end with emails and all of that. But they just did not respond. And
there's
painted
receipts
a picture
for all of this too.
Yeah. So they painted a picture of me as the guy who moved to North Idaho and became a Nazi. And that's how they painted that picture of me. And I've gotten reports of that from a lot of my clientele that went there and then came over to Idaho to get tattooed. And they were like, yeah, they think that you've gone off the rails and that you're a Nazi now. And I'm like, well, look for yourself. No, I just decided to handle my family in a time of crisis.
And those associated, just to be quiet and let be while stuff unfolds. Like, I quietly was doing the absolute best I could to support these contractors that were non-essential employees and couldn't work up there at the time. There's artwork hanging in my house right now that I bought specifically to ensure that there was some fucking cash flow going their way and stuff too, because they're part of the team. But it was a wild time. But go on.
Yeah. And so sent them all messages saying, "Hey, we opened up against state authority here, and we've never been busier, especially during a winter. So like, and it's insanely busy. I could use the help, but mostly, I know you guys are suffering. I know that you guys are scared. I know that like you don't know how you're going to pay your bills. It's safe over here. You can stay at my house. I've got an extra room. I've got 2 extra rooms at the time. You guys can stay here and work and be able to pay your bills. I would love to give you the ability to do that." And not one of them even gave me the bird. Not one of them sent me an email to tell me to F myself. They never responded.
Yep.
And then had the gall to say that I was like some type of horrible person for not wanting to go back into the lion's den over there. And I'm like, why would I? Like,
We're all
it's
the
a
heroes
war
of our
zone.
own story, though, aren't we?
Right, exactly. So, so down the line, there was minimal, I had had minimal interactions with Eric for business only, nothing social anymore. And him and I were roommates.
Yeah.
Like when I lived over there, I had an apartment with him for 2 years. I taught him how to tattoo. He was one of my dear friends, but now, no, we're done. So, but I also knew that he was probably going to be the one taking the helm because my lease was coming up and I was not going to renew, but I also didn't want these people, I still cared for them. I didn't want them to, I wasn't holding any bitter resentment. I was like, look, this is not what you think it is, so I'm not going to hold resentment towards you. But here's the deal. I'm not renewing the lease because I'll never go back to that city again. So I assume that you guys will want to stay there. And you, Eric, as the manager, you've had a good relationship with the landlord, who's a guy that owns a hair salon like 2 blocks down. And older guy owns a hair salon. This was his kind of commercial property retirement, and he was really flexible through COVID with the 4 months of shutdown. Pardon me. He didn't kick us out, and we, over the course of the next 3 years, we paid him back. And so outside of $13,000 of back rent, we had knocked down, because it put me $65,000 in the hole. So I was in the black. I was ready to sell it right before I was going to move to Charleston, and I had a buyer. A guy who owns another tattoo shop was going to buy it from me. We were in the talks, and then all this happened, and then of course no one wanted to buy it anymore, and it was $65K in the hole. So like I needed to dig out of that hole, so I did it from over here. I did it. I kept all of their jobs, every single one of them, because I kept paying the bills. And I kept chipping away while they weren't working, while they were scared to work, while they wouldn't let anyone in without a mask, and it was one person at a time, and they were limiting themselves. I just kept blasting and making money and putting it in, and knocked it down from $65K to $13,000 in 3 years. And so what we did is Eric and I made a deal. I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to, he presented, he goes, we'll take on the $13,000 left in debt if you give us all the gear and equipment here. And I was like, I haven't touched that stuff in 3 years anyway.
Yep.
Absolutely. Like, I'll walk away debt free. You guys can keep all the gear, change the name under a new LLC, and re-sign the new lease. Good to go. Happens smoothly, transition's done. I'm free and clear of all of it, and I don't have to deal with it anymore. As of the 30th or 31st of January, they made an announcement that they're shutting their doors for good. 1 year after I gave them the reins. 1 year.
Your phone
That's
is
all it
going
took.
crazy.
1 year after I gave them the reins, it was done. It was done. And they took everything that I built, and I'm sad. My kids grew up there.
Yep.
My son, learned to walk in that place, and like, watched it build from the ground up. And you were a major part of that every single day. Like the memories and the heart and the blood, sweat and tears and everything that went in there for 15 years. 15 years it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me, I struggled with it when I saw the announcement. And part of me was like sad. Another part of me was like, I told you so. And another part of me was like angry and resentful. And I haven't really kind of settled into where I'm going to be yet because it's still fairly fresh. And I know that I don't know all the details of the reasoning, but I do know that the landlord had decided not to renew their lease and kick them out. Now, is that because they couldn't keep up with the rent? Was it because he sold the building and wanted to go in a different direction, or
did they party after hours one too many times? It could be a laundry list of things. Yeah,
but I have my assumptions and guesses because it caught them off guard. They didn't know that this was going to happen. This isn't something that they kind of anticipated for a month or two. None of them knew it was coming. It came like a guillotine chop. They had no idea. And so I've got my speculations as to why it happened, but I don't know for sure. But either way, no matter how you how you cut that pie, it doesn't really matter. Really, what matters is that it took 1 year. 1 year. And they were not in a position to remedy it. They either created the problem, didn't remedy it, or something. Something did not happen that ended up with them having to shut the doors of an institution that I built, hand it over to them, and they couldn't even keep it a year. So
and paid down the back debt to the point where you also gave up every piece of equipment to cover what was left in a trade where you handed the business over, not sold it.
Correct.
So
Correct.
Yeah, we were talking about this offline a little bit, and I have a tremendous amount of memories through all of these pieces too. Like from you
were integral to it,
from the red chair all the way to the last days pre-pandemic and stuff. And I went through being sad at the point that it's like, well, that was a lost opportunity that may or may not have been fixed through rationale, but you can lead a horse to water. And nobody at that point in time, including my own friends, were willing to hear it. I mean, that was socially the same thing that happened to me at the exact same time with my group of friends and stuff. But at the outset of it, it was like, I think a year ago, I finally stopped following them on social medias and stuff. I'm just like, I just need to put this to rest, because the sense that I have come to through all of this is just an overwhelming sense of disappointment. Like the shop would not have been the shop if it weren't for open doors, people coming in, looking at comic books, participating in art walks, building relationships with cafes up and down the street, caring about stuff. So, I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I've gloved up and swept needles off the front porch of both of those places, like just because it needed to get done. Like, we cared a great deal about the success of that business because you were the soul of it. You know what I mean? Like, they may have made up a great deal of those memories in part of the architecture of what that was. But when they kind of turned their back on that, to me, I kind of scoffed internally and was like, I mean, I'd like to see how well this thing does without people that care about it as much as you and I and others cared about it. Your wife was there through a tremendous amount. Like, you guys raised kids in the shop,
Yeah. So
I just kind of came to like, this is just disappointing, and I just don't want to be reminded of it. So I kind of quit following them all on social media and stuff, and just was like, meh. I've got my own personal piece of this history that has my lens that I look at it through. But the anger part kind of subsided after all that. I was like, you know what? I had to deal with a lot of that personally as well. And I think my quality of life is much better where I'm at now. It sucks that that's a page that had to be turned the way that it was, but I publicly and still will, I wish them all the best. That's it.
Same.
I'm not going to talk
Same.
shit.
I
I've
don't have
got
a
reservations
little bit
with
of
quite a
ill-
few of them on a few different things, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I wish none of them ill will. In fact, I would still even be friendly with them,
Yep.
if not for the sake that it's not reciprocated. That's all. Like, that's literally the only reason why. You know, some of them have blocked me. Some of, you know, for no reason. I've like during the lockdowns, I was kind of vocal on social media, but it was warranted, you know, from my perspectives of what, and instead of like going, hey, Lucky, like, explain to me your perspective, like they've always done in the past for the decade previous to this. They've always done in the past. They're like, hey, you know, I don't understand your perspective on this, can you explain it? And then I would explain it and they go, oh, okay, that makes sense. They didn't give me that opportunity this time. They just shut me out. And
everybody from 2020 to 2023 picked a side in every facet of life. It was just side, like, you're either on the team or you're not on the team.
Yeah. And you know, these are people like, you know, one girl in particular, I gave her her first opportunity. She barely knew how to tattoo. I taught her most everything that she knows. She's a brilliant artist and a brilliant human being. You know, I was actively involved in a lot of her personal life stuff, and she worked for me for a decade. She hasn't spoken to me since. You know, like it's kind of a strange thing to shut the chapter of a book so abruptly and not have any real reasons why. Like, you know, they think something about me that isn't true. And instead of giving me the opportunity to talk to them, they just don't. And
I have a family member that married one of my best friend since grade school and has not talked to me at all. Like, moved her to Seattle, introduced those two. They're now married. They've been dating for whatever it was, 10 years, 11 years before they got married. Lived together, hung out every weekend. Family, actual family, like biological family. Won't talk to me. I've not heard word one in 3.5 years that I've been here. Not one.
Yeah.
So yeah, people pick the side, man.
I'm also a full-grown man, and I am emotionally mature enough and mentally mature enough to realize that life does have chapters, and you do get to just keep reading the next one. And I will look back on these people through, like you said, the lens of that piece in time, of fondness, of memories, of going, remember that story. And then that's it. And it's not going to affect my day to day. My life is going great. My shop is going great. Everything's going great here. So ultimately, you know, I don't want to look at it like this, but I won. I'm the one who won, you know, but like, it's not, it wasn't intentionally. I wasn't in a competition with anybody. It shouldn't have
been a fight, and it never was. But at the same time, my inclination was also correct in that, like, how long can you guys do this without governance?
Right.
Without people that really care about the soul of this place.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so sad day. But I wish that any of our viewers or, you know, listeners would have had an opportunity to kind of see that place in its heyday.
It was insane.
Like when we were at the peak of what we were doing, it was an incredible place to be. There was a magic to it. There was a quality to it that, you know, and you could probably still like Google, you know, some of the times I was interviewed by the news where they came in just to look around.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of times that happened.
You kind of built Willy Wonka's tattoo factory.
I did.
Yeah.
And it, you know, there was a joke that basically I was P.T. Barnum of the tattoo world, and that Eric was the Zac Efron from the Greatest Showman movie, whatever that. He was based on a real life manager of P.T. Barnum who kept kind of like, he'd have to implement P.T.'s like craziness, or tell him that's too crazy.
Right.
That's not possible. Don't do that. So, and Eric was that guy, you know, and he was great. And like the tattoo conventions that I would throw, Eric was the logistics king. He was the guy that I could go to and he would get things done. So I thought that he had a good reign on being able to run the shop because he did for me. But I think it was due to the fact that he could say, no, Lucky wouldn't want that. And be able to place it on me and go, no, you're right. I wouldn't want that. Let's not do that. And that was just the final word of it, you know? But I think that he kind of buckled under kind of the social pressure of kind of a socialist society way of running a shop. Mm-hmm. And everyone got to pitch in or not pitch in to whatever they felt they did or did not want to do. And I think that it kind of, and I saw this happen multiple times to different shops within the Seattle community where they would have a mutiny and say, it's capitalist nonsense. There shouldn't be an owner. I should be able to make whatever I make, and you know, and so then they would have like a co-op situation and kind of vote the owner off the island, and the owner would either buckle and kind of stick around as one of the co-owners of their business. They put all of their risk out there for because they didn't want to get kicked off the island or canceled or expelled, or they would just kick them out. Mm-hmm. And then they would have this little kind of island of misfit toys type of situation, and it would ultimately implode within a year because no one wanted to take responsibility, but everybody wanted to take the profits and everything off of it. And so and it never works that way. So, and I think that's kind of loosely how this went too. I think that they just basically kind of couldn't keep structure in line mm-hmm. because there was nobody really to say no, and said yes to all the wrong things. And I think that's ultimately
a strange twist of events and first time to actually reconnect on this. Let's get his side of the story. Let's bring him in, Eric. To the show. Just kidding.
I would actually welcome that.
I would
welcome that.
Honestly.
Yeah, because there's very few people. I used to say that Eric was the smartest guy in the room, but I think Eric suffered from one thing, and that was a low sense of self where he really wanted to do philosophically the right thing, but he was led philosophically in the wrong directions very, very frequently. And we would have long talks where that would get challenged on a very cordial level. You know, we would always have those conversations, but I don't know, good dude, great dude.
Oh, yeah.
Loved him to death, but like, yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's my little personal story that happened this week that was kind of big news for me and my family. You know, went through our text, you know, family text, and the kids were like, whoa, what? You know, it was a big hit for them, you know, like it was like, wow, I can't believe that happened. But yeah, anyway.
Did you get a chance to catch up on chat at all?
I did. I've been looking. I'm trying to keep my phone off the table so it doesn't like vibrate anymore. Yeah.
I know we got to get you one of these hanging arms so it doesn't vibrate through the microphone one day, so it's off the desk.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, you know, it's fun. I thought we could get a whole show. We just couldn't. Someone noticed.
No, somebody noticed.
So
I saw that Prince did notice.
Final bit. We both actually watched this movie.
Yeah.
Little review time. And I hate to break hearts. You're welcome for sharing the story. I've got a whole big side of this too, but it's not mine to tell, right? I have a big, deep perspective on all these years as well, but we're happy to do it, man. Try and talk a little real here. But thank you for listening in.
Yeah. Thanks,
Gladiator 2, dude. What happened? What happened?
That's the question.
What happened?
Because if I'm not mistaken, and I've got it right here, hold on. Ridley Scott directed this thing.
He sure did.
What happened?
Yeah.
I could not begin to tell you how disappointed I was in it. Like, I've never been more disappointed in something that I was more, you know, like, I was like, okay, 20 years later, we get a sequel.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this, right? Wow, what a swing and a miss. I was bored.
Yeah.
First of all, I was bored. There was none of the gravitas at all. At all. The original Gladiator was so powerful from the get. Like the minute you felt that he was smelling that earth, and you could feel the cold around, when they're in that first battle scene, and you felt every bit of that movie, and they paced it perfectly, and you went on this journey, and the whole thing was, so it has one of the highest rewatchability of any movie I've ever seen. Like, you can put Gladiator on any time of the day and I'm going to watch it. And this one was a husk, a absolute carved out, phoned in, terrible story nonsense. I mean, I don't even consider this like a sequel. There's certain times where we just don't think of the sequel. We will watch the original movie and think about it. This is one of those for me. I'll probably never watch Gladiator 2 again. I hated every minute of it. And so
I did too.
There was,
and I was
there
like,
was a couple of good things.
Denzel will save us.
Denzel will save us. Nope.
He didn't. He really didn't.
He was the best part of it.
Yeah.
But I still didn't. He wasn't enough.
No.
He wasn't enough by a long shot. Like, they just basically replaced characters, rehashed the story with a couple of twists. Like, it was really bad. And I don't understand what Ridley Scott did, because the guy's a visionary. Both the Scott brothers, Ridley and Tony, if they put out a movie, I'm pretty guaranteed to like it. But this was abysmal. And so, and could not be salvaged even by the few things. Like, even like they had to up.
Pedro didn't say that either, Prunes. Sorry, bro.
Yeah. No, not at all.
No. I think Pedro Pascal's character was likely one of the weakest links in the film, honestly.
Agreed.
Like, from a top-down view. And I love him as an actor, but it was just like, bro.
They wasted Pedro in that role. He was completely miscast. And on top of that, they gave him no meat. He was like kind of a worthless throwaway character.
Yeah.
And they really presented him as like something much bigger, but like
he had one line that like made a shit difference to the entire plot. And it was like, bro, it was so lackluster, because you're kind of like the whole time, to your point, kind of waiting for the build up for his awesomeness to be like explored somehow, like deeper in the storyline, and it just took an exit and left and never came out. Yeah.
Man,
it was bad.
I would say, like, it's the gladiator scenes, the arena scenes, they had that really cool one in the first Gladiator where the tigers were at the end of the chains and they're fighting in between the tigers. And of course they had to one up all this.
Oh yeah.
And they have like a rhinoceros thing.
And then later sharks. They filled it with water somehow. Like,
yeah.
Sick.
I was like, okay.
How did they do that? Because they're all staircases down to where the slave warriors are. So how did you guys get all the water in there to make a full battle scene with a fully built ship in a bottle that somehow made it in there overnight, by the way, because the scene before that was someone walking in moonlight across the same grounds they filled the next day with water and fully built battleships.
Yeah. It was nonsensical.
Did this feel to you like a
historically dumb? Like,
Did it feel like a paycheck to you, or it's just like name value alone, everybody's gonna watch this? Let's just throw some shit in a blender and we'll get out of here quick. Yeah, that's how it felt to me. Yeah, there were sharks, dude. Yes, prunes for sure. They filled the arena with water and got to retain that water somehow and from somewhere, and had a full-on ship battle in front of the crowd in the very same arena with fully built ships that remains unclear how they got those fully built in there without,
or how they got the sharks there,
or where they got the sharks from, and where are they keeping the damn sharks? Where are those at? Are they in the Vatican? Like, what happened? Was there a Vatican there that was just a fish tank? Who knows? Who knows? But they did it. They put it in the film, and it was bad.
I get that what it was trying to do is show the extravagance of what Rome was
the
doing
theater
in
of
its
it,
final throes. In its final throes of Rome, the extravagance that they were trying. But sharks were not part of that extravagance. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So 2 megs at best.
Go on.
I would say. Yeah, that's it. I'm not even giving it a half a meg. It was 2 megs. That was it. So
yeah, I put it. This is true. I am making notes on my digital notepad. I started at 4 megs and was like, this is way less than I wanted it to be. And we went to 3 megs, and then we went to 2.5 megs, and I'm like, surely we won't go lower than that. We got to 1 meg, dude.
Yeah.
And it was, I wanted that meg to eat the sharks that were in that stupid arena.
Yeah,
because that would have been more fun.
Better movie had a Meg showed up.
That would have been more fun to me. Yeah,
yeah. I was like, okay, we're just jumping the Meg shark here. Let's go for it. I'd be way more on board, except for the fact that this movie was trying to take itself seriously.
Yes,
and it was should not have been taken seriously. And that was the thing, is that I would have preferred to seen an enormous shark just eat everybody.
Well, and now
then Jason Statham come in and kick it in the face.
And now I want a Gladiator 3 where it's deep into the future and they're in the rundown version of the same thing, but now it's laser swords and stuff and drones maybe. Like,
why not?
There's sky's the limit. We could have dragons in there. May as well. Yeah, for me, like, I didn't think the evil emperors made any sense and or were that scary, or where was the tyranny coming from other than the bits of subtext we got to kind of plod the trundling plot line along. There was a lot of plot convenience stuff. It was really awesome to see some old characters come back, and then one of them die for no real reason. It had no impact to the story at all whatsoever. And then the Denzel part was lackluster. Pedro didn't get there. It was just, and honestly, it's hard when you chalk anybody up against the performance Russell Crowe had as, Maximus in the first one or whatever. But even the new guy, I was like, I could see you being a really good actor in some stuff. This is not for you. I didn't feel him in that role at all either. I felt
wildly miscast.
Good guy. I mean, he had some dialogue,
but he was straight up just as boring as you could put a lead man. Like, he had no charisma. Like, there was no charisma to that character, and I didn't care about him. In fact, I thought he was kind of obnoxious.
Same.
Where I wanted to go fight with Russell Crowe's character when you're watching that movie. Like, I would follow that guy, right? I would never have done that with this Hano character or whatever. I know, and there's a reveal that they do like halfway through the movie,
right? And that everyone can see but him,
right? So
Phoenix as Caesar was amazing in the first one too. It was, and Joaquin Phoenix is a pretty good actor. I think questionable choice on the Joker 2, which I will not watch because I don't do musicals, but
same.
He usually picks very awesome roles, and he was amazing in that. Like, they even call back to that scene in this one, and that was more fun to watch them rehashing old cutscenes from the first one than the trundling storyline of the second one. To me, I was just like,
I hated that. I hated that they had to lean into
to round out this fledgling storyline.
Yeah, that they relied too heavily on past film. Like, remember this? Remember this? And they kept having to do that. And I'm like, if you had good writing, you would not have had to remind us of what happened. And I don't know. I watched it on the plane and I was angry on the plane. I was just like, and the guy sitting next to me could tell.
Yeah.
And he was just like, was it that bad? And I was like, it was awful. And he just started laughing.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, good to know. I won't watch it. It's like,
So did you take it up with your son? Like, hey man, you said this was dope. What's wrong with you?
I know, right?
Yeah.
No, he asked me, oh, did you like it? I was like, no, not at all. He goes, okay. And so we'll discuss it later too. I think he's got hockey tonight. But
Yeah. Yeah, just start throwing one-liners out from the two emperors at him while he's on the ice.
Yeah.
Be like, you think this is so cool? So I unfortunately dropped the ball in a very real way between work craziness and other stuff. I don't have a Bible story from Gen Z tonight, folks. You can hold me personally accountable, but we will next week. I think I remember where I put that book after cleaning the house because it was out there last time when we had a guest read it.
That's right.
Go check it out on YouTube. I packed it up with other books and stuck them on a shelf that's far, far away for me to just run and go get. So apologies. Next week we will have the Gen Z storyline will continue. If you haven't seen it, it's not on Spotify. So if you're listening to audio only, you can check out our YouTube. There was a bit of an exclusive between the friends, the homies getting together at my house live around the table last week. It's on YouTube. Check us out at Modern Relics Podcast on YouTube. It's been out for a week now, maybe a little less than that. I think we did it on a weekend, but it was really fun. We had a guest read The Gospel by Gen Z. You'll get to meet some of the homies. Go check it out. It's exclusive to YouTube. Go find it. It's a good time. But I apologize. I dropped the ball on the Gen Z Bible today. Work has been bananas.
God will smite you later.
That's true. I'll have to do some Gen Z repentant and stuff, bruh. For real, for real. So I think that's it for us tonight. You got anything else?
I do.
You got some more
I've got
announcements?
2 things.
Yeah.
Yeah. One, my dates for coming back down are set. I'll be there February 19th through the 25th.
Nice.
So if anybody wants to get tattooed, I'll be at Mad Monk Tattoo in Las Vegas, at the Meadows Mall. In the 19th through the 25th. You'll also probably get a chance to meet my son because he's coming with me. And then March 21st through the 23rd, I will be at the Havasu Legends Tattoo Expo at the Nautical Resort in Lake Havasu, Arizona. It's the first time I'm actually doing a tattoo convention that I'm working a tattoo convention in since pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So 5 years. I haven't done worked a convention since. So this is the first time. I'm going down there.
What are those dates? March what?
21st through the 23rd.
Okay. Cool.
And it's at the Nautical Resort.
Sure.
And it's during spring break, so come down, have fun. I will be there with my wife during that time frame, so you'll get to meet her if you would like. We are going actually down to Vegas on our anniversary, which is March 17th, and it's our 20-year anniversary. So we're going to spend a couple nights in Vegas, and then we're going to go down to Lake Havasu and spend a couple of nights there prior to the convention, just the two of us and hanging out. And then I'll do the convention. She'll probably kick it with my grandma.
Nice.
Because she wants to avoid drunk bros.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which I don't blame her for that. So, but yeah, if anyone wants to come down, come check it out. Both those will be fun.
Is that also spring break down there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she's going to want to hang out with grandma.
Yeah, it's going to get wet.
She'll probably kill somebody.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so if you want to come down and see me either one of those times, hit us up in the comments or anywhere. So
love it. I have no life and no announcements, so I'll just call it there. We love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure when we get to see you live. Check us out on Spotify, iHeart, anywhere you get your podcasts. Yeah. Lucky I'm Angel. We'll see you guys later.